The Rocket Review is sponsored by Why Not Saloon.
We're so thrilled to have on the show an incredible country music singer, songwriter, and guitarist, Dan Smalley, with his brand new album, debut album.
That's right.
Dan, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Man.
You know, I'll tell you what, after I heard some of your songs, the singles first before the whole album came out, I had to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
And since you are, born in Alaska but raised in Louisiana.
Yes.
And you really don't have the Louisiana accent. Did you lose it since you moved here to Nashville in 2017?
I don't know. I grew up in Alabama and Ohio too, and Kansas. And
you kind of have that Midwest sound.
Yeah, I'm kind of from all over the place. So yeah, the Southern drawl thing is something that hangs on as hard as it can.
Well, apparently it's popular also internationally. Because, you've been touring a bunch and you've got the new album, The State of Country Music, and you and I were talking, there's a lot of fun songs on here.
That's right.
And it seems like, and certainly your EP was very well received that you put out a few years ago, but this kind of autobiographical with a lot of these songs, and, you're giving some nods to some of the places you've lived also.
Absolutely, yeah. I tried to let my influences, both physically and spiritually, and my musical influences, kind of shine through. And yes, tell a very real story of where I'm from and where I've been. Absolutely.
Well, and you've also got a song co-written with Ashley McBryde on this album.
That's right. Yeah, Accidentally Drunk is on there.
That's such a great song.
Yeah, and she cut Velvet Red on her record. What's it called? Never Will.
Yeah.
It came out in 2020.
So you're kind of like a secret weapon, and you're actually speeding up, the 10-year plan. So you've hit the 7-year plan.
I've hit 7. Yep. I'm trying to squeeze on in before 10 hits. Yeah.
Well, it's a big deal though when you move your whole family here. That's and once again, I know that all the furniture you had to move in here was a lot of challenge. Took multiple trucks, semis, and everything to get all the furniture into Nashville, right?
Honestly, we sold all of our furniture.
I know.
Yeah, so we had lawn chairs in our first apartment that we were living on for at least a month before we started acquiring very cheap furniture.
It kind of makes you appreciate it, though, doesn't it?
It really does. We had nice couches, man.
But it's like the humblers. When you move and you do that, it's like going, okay,
we're doing it.
Starting from this is on.
Absolutely from scratch with our children and everything. My wife built their first bunk beds while I was out of town at a show, and it's been an amazing experience for our family to come here and kind of detach from everything else back in Louisiana and become a unit. And I've never felt more confident in who my family and who we are right now.
Well, and obviously you've got that support too, and that's why I was joking to you about the furniture and everything, because I think we've all done that, to where it's like, okay, it's like at one point I had a beanbag. It's like, come on in, hang out. Would you like to sit on the beanbag? Because there's only one.
It was hard to talk my wife into it, but she finally made a trip in 2017 and kind of saw what I was doing and who I was connected with, and the way that they treated me and accepted me as one of their own. And she realized very quickly that we needed to move here.
Yeah.
But without her blessing, it was never going to happen.
Oh, you gotta keep your wife happy, especially with the kids and all. But I find it interesting also. You came from a musical family. Your dad, being an Air Force vocalist and everything. So you started singing as a young child.
I did, yeah. He would pull me up on stage when I was like 4 and 5, just singing in front of thousands of people, and we'd be singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Jingle Bells and stuff like that. So, I owe my talent and my experience to my dad for sure.
I found it interesting though, Dan, that your dad was not a songwriter though. You were really started off with the songwriting, obviously like 10 years old, and then playing saxophone also in 3rd grade. So you sort of had the musical gift.
Yeah, I started making stuff up when I was very young, and my parents really didn't believe me, so I kind of kept that under wraps until I got older. And my dad was always like, "What are you gonna do when you can't play football anymore?" And I was like, "I'm gonna be a country singer, man."
Yeah, and here you are.
Yeah,
making great strides. And I got to brag on it because you won't. But you've shared the stage with Willie Nelson, with Carrie, Underwood. The list goes on and on that you've been on these stages with these great artists early on, and also you've had them, such as Trace Adkins, recording your songs.
Yeah, I've been extremely fortunate since we moved here and gotten plugged in with some amazing camps and some amazing people that have taken very good care of us, for sure.
Well, I like your angle too, and certainly listen to all the songs on this new album are so good. It's just I can hear your influences.
Yeah.
But you make them your own also, Dan, with the way you sing them and with the co-writes and everything. You can tell you feel the lyrics. But we got to talk about this. You know, it's been written of. You know, certainly, you know, when you're out late at night and you end up in the wrong house.
Yeah, I've heard the story a few times. I don't know how many people have gotten through it the way I did, but yeah, I used to party pretty hard and press the pedal down a little too far and end up what I call blacked out. And it happened over a handful of times. The last time I walked into the wrong house, or kicked the door down to the wrong house because I couldn't get in with my keys, and the man shot me with a .40 caliber pistol.
And you woke up in a hospital bed.
Absolutely, had no clue how I got there. The doctors let me know that I was probably the luckiest person that they'd ever met, and that if I didn't know how I got there, I had a very real problem. And I agreed, and I've been sober ever since, and that was 2014.
Well, and I think the testament too on it, Dan, is that you took that and refocused your energy on your songwriting, on your career in country music and your family.
My family was the most important part,
Right.
to be honest with you. And then what do I need to do to support them and make their lives better than mine ever was?
Right.
And to me, that's chasing my dream and being just that example of somebody who never gives up on something that they know that they're here to do. They're made to do this. And
You really turned a page on your life, and it has to be, you know, other people coming up to you, certainly when you're touring, and you know, you sharing that and being so open and honest about it. It has to touch others and makes for an incredible song on the album too.
You know, it was really surprised to me how many people would actually connect to it. And it's crazy when you get to Europe and you tell that story and everybody's like, what? Like, that's not even a scenario over there. The thought of shooting somebody just because they drunkenly entered their home is not even a thought that crosses their mind.
Right.
And so it's a much different story in the UK and other places overseas. And over here, it's kind of a joke. You know, people are like, "Oh, you shouldn't drink," and it's just a different scenario in America, and I totally understand it and grasp it. But yeah, it affects people in different ways, and it's crazy to see how many people connect to it.
Well, and also coming out the other side, Dan.
Yeah,
in a positive way.
The redemption story is a good one, and that's what everybody I think is tapped into. They're like, man, this guy really changes it around, and it took almost a tragic incident to make it happen.
Right.
So, yeah.
But life altering. But I got to bring this up too, to where on the album, it's like the depth of the lyrics and just, you know, your voice sounds so great. The whole band. I mean, you've got the rollicking songs on there. You know, you've got the nods to Hank Williams Jr. And you're known, I mean, and I don't think it's a cliche, as real country. And that's kind of what people has pegged you with.
I'm okay with that.
What does that feel like? I mean, you know, as young as you are, it's like going that Dan Smalley is bringing real country.
Yeah, there's a handful of guys out there still beating a dead horse. I don't know, trying to make it happen. And it's honestly all I wanted to do when I moved here is make country music. And yeah, I bet my career on this record after we made it. It was one of those things where like, this is exactly what I came to this town to make and do, and this is coming out.
That is just amazing. And I know there's going to be, you know, more singles and videos, and also the vinyl is already in Europe.
It is, yeah.
Which it should make its way back across the pond.
It's definitely coming,
Well, you know, I would be remiss, you know, because I know you're kind of a music gear nut like myself, and I've seen you certainly with a Gibson J45 on stage and touring, but let's talk about your custom guitar, because it's got an incredible name and an incredible luthier.
Yeah, it's a Smalley guitar, and it's made by a man named Dan Smalley.
You can't make that up.
Yeah, he's in Douglasville, Georgia, and we met years ago through the internet, through social media, Instagram, and he reached out, and I was like, well, this guy has a cool name. And I looked at what he was doing, and he was making his own jigs, and he was making his own guitars. And
Oh my gosh.
And as a carpenter in Louisiana, kind of paying my bills with woodwork, I noticed quickly that he was very, very good. And so he met me in Muscle Shoals one time. I was down there writing and hanging out, and he brought one of these guitars, and it was the first one that he'd ever built. And he said, this one's spoken for, but if you want one, I'd love to make you one. And I was like, man, I'd be happy to have one of these guitars. And it's honestly one of the best guitars I've ever owned. We got my buddy Randall King one too for Christmas last year.
Well, you know, and it probably wasn't a stretch, though, to get your name on the headstock.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes I know, like when you get a custom model, it's like, I don't know, can you put my name on it? Maybe on the pick guard, maybe on the fretboard.
Yeah.
This was not a stretch, Dan.
No, it was easy for him, and he called me. He's like, "Hey, you want your name on it?" And I was like, "Don't want our name on it?" And
Exactly.
I was like, "Absolutely, and if I don't like it, you can just have it right back."
That is amazing.
But I loved it, and I love it so much that I hardly take it out of my house anymore because I'm afraid something's going to happen to it.
Do you use it in the studio also?
Oh,
when
absolutely.
you do
The
your
record,
co-writes?
yeah, the State of Country Music, I use that guitar on a number of songs, for sure. The State of Country Music itself is played with
Such
that
a great song.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, but all the songs, and that's what I was saying. It's like, listening to the entire album, which I certainly suggest our viewers do the same. It's like, it's just, it's cohesive.
Thank you.
I think that's the best way I know to put it. There's like a common thread, not just your voice and playing, but it's like, it holds together, and it makes me enjoy the album in its entirety and not just have a single.
No skips. That's where I'm at. No skips.
Yeah, exactly. Because, and I'm not saying there are albums out there, but you know how it is to where, you get an album and you go, yeah, there's one or two on here, but it's like the whole album.
Thank you so much.
I mean, you really put your all into this.
Yeah, I'm extremely proud of it, and it took years of trying to talk my team into letting me take my band in the studio, and then when they finally threw a little bit of money at us as like an audition for an actual producer, we went in 2 days and cut the whole record, and turned in the roughs, and they're like, "We have to finish this now." And
But you know what? And also, Dan, it's such a great point though, because so many people don't realize this because they assume that when you hear a record or singles or whatever, that it's the band. And 9 times out of 10, it's not. It's studio musicians.
Most of the time.
And you have to fight to have your own band on the album and on these songs. And you did that.
Yeah, what I didn't want to do when I moved to town is make the same records that everybody else was making. And that's not a dig on any of the musicians or producers in this town. They're all amazing and absolutely extraordinarily talented. But they're the ones pretty much playing most of what you hear out there. And so when I would hear the demos or hear the records, it was like, man, this is amazing. It's just not me.
Right.
It's not 100% who I am and what I do. And what we did live on stage in 2021 when we were touring for that year, it was so good to me that I continued to just press, hey, if we get these guys in the studio, I'm pretty sure we can nail this quickly because we've been doing it all year.
Which is what it's all about, studio time, not cheap.
Absolutely.
But it's not lost on me, and I was telling you, it's like you remind me of like the Bellamy brothers, Dan, to where, it's like you're so big over in Europe, and it's like, but it has to be, amazing for you with those audiences because it's almost like playing in a listening room.
Yeah, it's a different experience, to be honest with you. It's a dream, absolute dream come true to go over there and experience what I've been craving in the United States for my whole life, basically. Right. And to sell out rooms and to have to book more shows at the same venue because we sold them out is just like, that's exactly what I'm after. And so I'm going to get in where I fit in right now, and that's Europe.
Yeah, and that's, there was a little guitar player named Jimi Hendrix who kind of did the same, and it worked out for him.
There's a handful of people that got their start over there until the U.S. finally caught on.
Yeah, and then you bring it back across the pond, back home.
Sometimes it works out. Yeah.
I think it's going to work out for you. Now, I got to ask too, more singles, music videos, and everything else coming out for this album also?
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to continue to push this record to the end of the year. Might sneak out a little Christmas song or something like that. Might have a live record coming at you soon.
I bet your kids wouldn't mind the Christmas songs either. At a point, you're going to have to pull in your kids like your dad did you.
So I play a Christmas show in my hometown of Shreveport every year, and we just started it. But this past year, my son got up and played the saxophone solo to "Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree."
Oh my gosh!
Because he's also a saxophone player.
Wow, like Dad.
Just like Pops. So I got up there with him, and just as moral support, and blew a little out on a few of the notes.
What a blessing.
And it was the most amazing experience. And not only that, but my father was playing Santa Claus, and he was on stage with us too. So we had 3 generations
it's like
of
the full
Smalleys.
circle, man.
It was the coolest night of my life.
That is so awesome. Well, I think there's going to be a lot more cool nights and cool concerts and things happening for you.
I think so too, man.
Especially with this new album. However you consume music, be sure and download the album. It released in May. The State of Country Music, Dan Smalley. When it comes in vinyl, CD, whatever form you prefer, And I want to make sure also for our viewers, website, social media, Dan, to keep up with you and come see you and the band live.
Yeah, DanSmalleyOfficial.com. I'm all over the internet, Dan Smalley Music on the socials and all of those things. Yeah, find me, look me up, holler at me, and I'll be sure to write you back. For sure.
And I'll tell you what, listen to every song on this album. You're going to love it as much as me. Can't wait to see you play live here in Nashville, you know, maybe on the Opry or the Ryman somewhere.
Never know.
They got stages there.
They got big stage.
Dan, it's great to have you on the show.
Pleasure to see you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The Rocket Review is sponsored by Why Not Saloon.